Well, these are a historic few days around the nation. You had Joe Biden's speech last night. You've got this ceasefire deal that may be on hold between Israel and Hamas. And, of course, Monday is Inauguration Day. Here to break it all down is our friend Rich Lowery, the editor of the National Review. Well worth your subscription. I've got mine. Before we get to the business of the day, Rich, I've got to imagine as a long-suffering Tennessee Titans fan, are you going to be rooting on our Chiefs on Saturday against your division mates there, the Texans?
Yes, I don't like the Texans. So I think the AFC is fascinating, though. I think that any of those three teams, the Bills, the Chiefs, or the Ravens, could get to the Super Bowl.
So that means you do think the Chiefs will win on Saturday?
I do, yeah. Don't you?
Oh, yeah. I think people are confident here. Maybe a little, I don't want to say too confident, but I think there's a lot of confidence. Less confidence with the Bills next week, if that's how it plays out. But, yes, I would say there's confidence for Saturday. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and then it should be, assuming you guys win, excuse me, it should be a fascinating conference championship.
I know it chokes you up talking about the Chiefs winning a three-peat, but it is what it is. Rich Lowery's on KCMO Talk Radio. All right, Rich, Joe Biden's legacy, we heard from him last night in his final address to the nation. What did you take from it, and what does it mean when we look back on these 4 years under Joe Biden's tenure?
I thought it was pretty pathetic. I think, almost everything the last 4 years has been pretty pathetic. It was overly obsessed and embittered, obviously, about Meta's new moderation policy, right? Why is the President of the United States, why is this part of his farewell address that's supposed to stand for decades? And the idea that we're threatened by these oligarchs, when he clearly means Elon Musk, and for now Zuck and whoever's kind of following Elon Musk's lead is also just ridiculous. They have all the big dollar donors contributing to them. Those people are largely Democrats now. Then you have this one exception, right? This one guy who took the risk, Elon Musk, and went out there and put it all on the line. And he's this major threat to America. It reminds me a little bit of the way they used to talk about Fox News when Fox was really the only conservative alternative media. It was like they had to be crushed, because he had one station that didn't go along with the rest of the program. And it's the same thing with Musk.
What, you and I haven't spoken since it's the first time we've spoken this year, certainly since the death of President Carter. How similar are these two terms, Jimmy Carter's to Joe Biden's, and how are they different when it comes to historically speaking?
Well, I think it's something we haven't really seen before, right? Where the pre-presidency is usually not this consequential, and it may be that Donald Trump had a role in this deal, if it hangs together on the hostages, wouldn't have happened without Donald Trump, right, making his threats. So, I mean, Biden has just been uniquely weak. I think he's certainly the worst president since Jimmy Carter. You can argue about whether he is worse than Carter. I think Carter was worse. But it's just been pathetic how he's tried to boost a legacy that's just not there.
Well, with the ceasefire deal, how much of that do you think is the credit of Donald Trump coming in versus Joe Biden and his administration actually getting a deal done on the way out the door?
It's hard to know, right, because it involves counterfactuals. We can't rerun this as a social science experiment where Donald Trump hasn't been elected president. But I just thought as soon as he did that Truth Social post that there was going to be a deal. Now, you can argue about whether this is a good deal or not, but I'm not shocked that there was a deal. Just because Trump has this deterrence power, it's really important for people around the world to take you seriously or to fear you a little bit, and they do that with Trump. And he talked about this with threats he made the first time around to the Taliban and Putin. I think President Xi, too, he would say, Putin didn't believe what I said, but he might have believed me 50%. And who knows how much Hamas believed Trump, but they had to at least be thinking about it, and I think that probably helped shake something loose.
What do you, and when you look to the West Coast, I know you're an East Coast guy, but when you look out West and you see the wildfires and the political potential fallout from these wildfires, what do you think they will be in super blue California. Will there be any Rich Lowery? Is this like that moment where people say, gosh, maybe this kind of leadership isn't working out for us? Or is it just impossible to envision that in California?
I think you could have more reasonable Democrats, and that's the best to hope for, more practical-minded Democrats. And I just think the wildfires underline just what a horrible several months this has been for progressivism. Now, look, that's not the most important thing about the fires, right? It's terrible what people have been dealing with out there. But between losing to Trump, who they called a fascist, and they used every means to beat him, the lawfare, the billions of dollars, every celebrity, the media totally against him, failing, then realizing the legacy media doesn't have the power that it used to, and Joe Rogan has more power than the CNN and Washington Post, losing control of Meta, which they effectively had through social pressure and government pressure, and then this disastrous statement about how this most important blue state has been misgoverned. All that's just terrible. It's hard to imagine how it could have gone any worse over the last several months.
And that weaves into a great story that you wrote yesterday, Progressivism's Bleak Winter. Could it be any worse? And you're right. I mean, you look at the last few months, and they have been hit really hard on a lot of these issues. So with Donald Trump coming into town on Monday, I don't know if you're going to be down there for that big inauguration pomp and circumstance, Rich, but what are you expecting to be like day one things that the American people will notice about changes in their country when Donald Trump gets going on Monday at noon Eastern?
Well, the first thing, I expect crossings at the border to go down to zero. This is what happened in 2017 as well. Everyone, speaking of fearing the president, everyone is going to be who's thinking about coming over is going to be freaked out about what might happen. Then the trickle will start again, and it will be a flood unless he reinstitutes the policies he had or comes up with some other way to stop it. But I think the border instantly gets better. He's talked about solving Ukraine in 24 hours. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But this is something that will get better in 24 hours. And then pedal to the metal on energy stuff. And then, the congressional things that require congressional action. It's going to be this big, beautiful one or two reconciliation bills to be determined later. And that's where it gets dicey. That passing that is going to be hard.
Rich Lowery at the National Review on KCMO. We saw the Pete Hegseth stuff. He was on the hot seat this week. The confirmation hearings continue today. Do you think any of these nominees will not get confirmed by the Senate? And if so, which ones?
Well, Pete's going to make it, obviously. I think maybe his performance is being exaggerated a little bit in retrospect. There's no doubt it's good, though, and he did what he needed to do. He kind of had, I don't know whether you've ever had the misfortune of sitting through a deposition, but what lawyers tell you beforehand, don't talk if you don't have to. Don't take the bait. Never get worked up. And clearly that's what they told him with regard to the Democratic questioning. Occasionally he just sat there and didn't say anything. And because it's a visual event, you got this guy who looks great, looks like a movie star, but looking calm, cool, and collected, and Kirsten Gillibrand waving her hands. And the hand waver loses that visual argument every single time. So he'll get through. Then the question is Tulsi and RFK, whether they have problems. I think Tulsi, it'll be close. They're easy to see 3 votes against her, but what's the 4th? I kind of think she gets through. RFK, my guess is also he would get through, but I think he's most vulnerable and could have more than 3 Republican votes against him. But there's some chance he gets 1 or 2 Democrats, and that gets him over the top.
Oh, okay. So you think a Democrat or 2 could lift RFK through his nomination? That would be interesting. All right. Rich Lowery on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app.